Yo, what is going on, everybody? My name is Jack PSD, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I made the FAZE 2.0 cover art by the artist named Truth, also known as 7RU7H, featuring Logic. So yeah, let's just hop right on in. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is download Blender. I'll leave a download link in the description below. It's free. Try it out, mess around with it. But yeah, you're going to need Blender and also Photoshop. But first off, I'm going to show you guys what all I did in Blender. So here is the actual project file. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's really not too much going on. You got your car, you know, and you've got your close-up scenery here, and the FAZE logo. So it's pretty simple when it comes to cover arts, which is pretty cool. Alrighty, so when you get into Blender, all you do is you hit A to select everything, and then X to delete it all, because we don't need our light, cube, and camera, whatever. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in a floor plane, and this will just kind of create a grounding for for our scene. You know, if our camera's all out of whack or we're looking all out of whack, we'll know that this top here is where we're supposed to be at. So you hit Shift A to add in a camera, and then you can hit the letter G and then Z twice to move the camera forward and backwards, or G and X to move the camera side to side, or G and Y to move it forward and backwards as well. G and then Y and Y again does it on the Z axis. So if you hit it twice, or you hit G and then the letter twice, then you can move it on like Y and then X and then Z. So now that we have our camera in here, I'm gonna add in our car. So what I did for the car is FaZe Clan is sponsored by Nissan, so I just went to sketchfab.com and I typed in Nissan GTR. So we have our Nissan here pulled up, and then I'm gonna just type in GTR. And this red one here looks pretty cool. I think this is the one that I used. So once our model loads in, I'm gonna just download this here. Shout out to our boy Tanver. He is the dude that created the model right there. And it'll go just straight into your downloads. So the cool thing about Blender 5.0 is you can now drag and drop objects in that you download externally, and you can just drag and drop it in, and there you go. Now you got your car added into the scene, and it's upside down. So let's scale this up, and I'm gonna give it just a little rotation, and we added in our own floor, so I don't want to have that floor in here. So let's give the car some rotation, and then I'm gonna move the camera more towards the bottom of the car, and I'm gonna scale up our floor just a little bit. But before I scale the floor up, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna texture the ground. So let me get this into cycles. So then now that we're in cycles, we're gonna set our noise threshold to 1, and then our noise threshold on the render to 1 as well, and then I'm gonna set that 4096 number down to 1024. That's gonna give us a smoother render, maybe not as crispy, but it's gonna save so much time on the rendering process, and all that detail that we're gonna end up, you know, missing out on for not having that as the 4096 number, we're gonna gain it all back in Photoshop anyways. So now that we are in cycles, I'm gonna scale up our camera to the cover art size, which is 2000 by 2000 pixels, and I'm gonna just rotate it again, and we need to get this car centered up. So the way to do that is you click on your camera, and then you click your camera down here, this little green icon, viewport display. You're gonna go down to composition guides, and then we're gonna click center. And now that we have it centered, it says that the middle mass of the car is right here, which is true, but we're also looking at the car from an angle. So that's gonna skew the camera's way of actually picking up the car. So our best option here is to just eyeball it and get it as about centered with the edges of the car. I mean, if you want to get super technical with it, you just add in a cube here and line up the cube. But eyeballing it looks pretty good, and it's exactly where we want it to be. So for texturing the car, I'm going to expand this side out and go into shader editor. Now we don't want just a simple just red texture. We want it to be FaZe branded, because that's what the Nissan was. And how I did that was I took the FaZe pattern, like, you know, like they have that like tiger jaguar kind of pattern to it. So I created a pattern in Photoshop, and I just plugged that right into the base color. And all you do is just drag it into the base color, and then boom. Now our FaZe texture is covering the car. And I do really like having the mirror just that red because it just looks better for the wrap. All right, secondly, I'm going to add in our dirt texture here. I think I brought it up prior and then never ended up doing it. So it's a it's an add-on called Blender Kit, sorry. It's a free add-on. You get thousands of textures. It's where I get a lot of my textures at. So we're gonna go back in here and I'm going to go back into our shader editor. We're gonna grab our floor, and all of this was pre-built from Blender Kit, which is awesome. So I don't want the ground to be that brown color. I want it to be just black and white. And if I turn this to black, you can see the difference. Let me get rid of this color ramp here. You see how it's all brown, and then once you add in your color ramp, it makes everything black and white. Now how you do that is all you do is just hit Shift A, and then you can type in color ramp and then drag it into where you need it. All right, so next up we're going to add in our character. Now this character here, I found it on Sketchfab and then I rigged it in Mixamo. So that is a tutorial for another day. I'm gonna just drag in the actual character that I used on the final. Okay, so now that we have our character in here, I'm gonna scale her just a little bit and get her positioned to where we want her to be. And like mentioned previously, it is a character from Sketchfab, and I rigged and textured her, but the rig came from Mixamo, which Mixamo is free. It is a Adobe product, and Mixamo is actually really good if you need something rigged up real quick. Music videos are a little different. You're gonna want a Rococo suit for that. Okay, so now that we have our character in here, what I did next was we needed to add in her sniper. So all I did was I went to Sketchfab and I typed in the intervention, because that is the gun, that is the sniper that Call of Duty got famous off of on their old videos. Okay, so once you find a good intervention sniper here, you're gonna want to just download it, and shout out Jwam for this 3D model here. You did a great job on it, and I'm only going to download the texture size with the 1K. We don't need the 4K because we're gonna use the same texture that we did on the car. We want the gun to be wrapped in that like FAZE clan color. Okay, so now that we have our intervention in here, next up we just gotta pose it up and put it where we need it to be. So I'm gonna move it in just a little bit. We gotta scale it up for her so it'll actually fit in her hands. And there is like a grip on the, I don't know if that's like the barrel or underneath the scope here. And that's what I want her to be like holding on to. So let's get our camera positioned up here. That is about where I want to have it put it. But her arm seems to be going through the scope, or the stock here. So how to fix that is we just go back into our rigged Mixamo character and just move her arm down a bit. And that is, for those wondering, exactly how I did her throwing up the FAZE hand. Like she's throwing up the FAZE up there. Actually, I'm gonna rotate this just a bit more so it's even more so not digging through her arm there. Maybe even something like this is cool, and I don't really want this like scope cover on that, so I'm gonna just get rid of that. How you do that is you just go to edit mode, and I'm gonna just go through here and select all of that. And then I still want to keep in our lens, so I'm gonna just delete just the top cover. We don't need it. And next up is texturing. So to make it very quick and easy, just like what we did with the car, this car texture is already a texture that Blender has in its files. So it's called body. And then yeah, now it's pretty straightforward. You just go through and select all of the parts of the gun and just set the texture of it to that body. So now the gun camo is taking form. As you guys can see, it's becoming more red. Let's zoom in just a bit more to see what's going on here. And I kind of want to keep that scope like the OG color, or we can even make it red. Now the way to do that is you just go back into our shader editor, Shift A to add in a color ramp, and I'm going to bring this white in just a little bit, and we're going to set this white down to this red color. And you can finick around with the color ramp to get your desired look. but I'm thinking more so like this to kind of add in some blacks to where the edges are. You can see the dirt and grime on the gun already built into that texture that was already from the Sketchfab download. Alright, so now you can kind of see it's coming together. The main thing we're missing right now is that scenery. We needed an abandoned warehouse. We need that abandoned warehouse. Alright, so how you find the abandoned warehouse is you just type in warehouse. You get Sketchfab pulled up, and we're gonna look for our abandoned warehouse. This one here looks crazy. That is the one that I used. Shout out to our boy Dennis here who made this 3D model for us. This here looks to be perfect. We're gonna need to clean up a lot of the trash and the goop around here. We don't really want that. So let's download it. And this one here, we're gonna utilize a lot of the textures within this model. So that's why I downloaded it at the 4K. It takes up more storage, but and it is a bigger file, but the results are cleaner and crispier. Okay, so now that we have our model in here, this is the big warehouse model. And I'm gonna just scale it down just a bit. And let's get out of camera view so we can see what we're doing more. And we don't really need that sky texture, so I'm gonna just delete that HDRI or skybox, however you want to call it. And let's go back into camera view to see what kind of scene we're gonna be looking at here. Now there is a lot of trash and gunk that we don't really want in here. It looks very cool for the guy who made it. To our boy Dennis here. We want everything to be just a little more chill than that. So let's get the shopping cart up out of here. And all you do is just select the edges and delete. Alright, so now that we have our scenery in here, I'm gonna move the car just a bit closer to her. And how you do that is just G and then Y, and then there you go. Now you got your car in here. Also, let's get rid of these plants up here. We don't really want those plants. And I do want the angle of it to be more so, because I want more of the more of these lights to show up in it. And let's get rid of that floor there. Alrighty, so now we're cooking. Now we are cooking. We've got our scene pretty well built out in here, and it does kind of look cool with these dirt also coming through the floor. I don't really want them too noticeable, but like something like that is neat. All right, next up, I'm gonna I'm gonna drag in our character. We want this to be more centered up like that. Just G and then X to get it all centered up. Now, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna add in those military like sandbags that you see in the cover art. So how I did that is I just go right back to our Sketchfab here, and I just searched up sandbags. There is a ton of great ones, especially this one right here. Shout out our boy Nellish. Shout out Nellish for that. And all we're gonna do here is just download the model, and we're gonna drag it in just like we did with the rest. So let's get these boys dragged in, and we're gonna rotate them up, scale them up and everything. And I'm gonna scale these back down just a little bit. We don't want them too prominent in the scene, like we can get rid of the top, and these guys here need to go, so let's delete them there. And then let's click our anchor point here again, which is all of our sandbags, and there is some sandbags here. We don't want that guy there. And I'm gonna go back into render view so we can see what we're looking at, shadows, etc. And to see what we're looking at is very dark, so let's just add in a low point light here. And I'm gonna just move it in here so we can see the clipping of our sandbags, which everything here looks to be good. Sandbags are going through the floor just a little bit, so you just move it up. As we mentioned earlier, the floor here coming up, I'm gonna set that to the same material as our other one, which is this, and it doesn't look that great, so I'm gonna just delete it. And then now that we have our sandbags in here, we can maneuver them around just a little bit. I want them scaled on X only. So what I'm gonna do here now is I'm going to go through and select all of our sandbags, which is all of them through here. Now the quickest way to do that is without having to go through all those anchor points. I'm gonna just turn this off, go back into render view here, and I'm gonna adjust our angle so we can just grab them all in one swoop and deselect the floor. So now we should only have just our sandbags. So I'm gonna rotate these up just a bit more to add in, like, they're at an angle. And same with this other side here. There are less that you have to select, only 2 that you have to select, which is great. So I'm gonna rotate these up just a bit more, and boom, there you go. Now you have your sandbags in. Next up, we're gonna add in our FAZE logo. Now, how I did the FAZE logo is I opened Adobe Illustrator, and I grabbed the FAZE logo, put it in Illustrator, and then I made it an SVG file so you could scale it up to however size you want. So for this, I'm gonna just hit import, and we're gonna click our SVG, which is this guy right here. And then I'm gonna go to wherever I had it saved at, and let's just type in FAZE. You can save it under whatever file name you want, but I just saved it under FAZE. Okay, so now that we have our FAZE logo added in, we can rotate him up just like that. And I'm gonna rotate him more so like this, and you can right click to set the origin to the geometry. So now everything, like these two orange dots here, are at the center of all the of the geometry. And then we're gonna extrude it out just a bit to give it some more depth. And now this part here is really cool because the way that I created it, I made a little outline on it. And I'm gonna just remove this texture here so you can see what we're doing. It is our outline layer, and if we go back into our Blender kit and we just type in glow, just find a cool glow material that you want, because we can always go in and change the color of it. How I did that was I just set these two separate ones, and instead of this purple one here, let's see if we can find any cooler ones. Maybe something like that. And then if we go back into our shader editor here, let's go into shader editor, and yeah, so I really like that red, just how it came stock. And let's see how this one would look with the red outline. That looks to be pretty sick. Now instead of this, let's try that other material that we added in, that purple one, and then let's set this to all the red, just to see how it would look. And that looks to be pretty bright, but I might want to keep that like darkish hue to it. So I'm going to set this back, the front layer, to that one, and then I'm going to set this back layer to that original red, glowing red that we had, or maybe even that glowing blue one that we had prior. Yeah, so we don't really have any luck on that. Let's keep it like that, because I like how that's textured out. Maybe even set this one to that original red. But yeah, just finick around with it until you find a result that you like best. This one here I really digged, and we don't need this light anymore, and we don't really need that light anymore, because now we have our illuminating phase light. Now next up, we're going to add in some headlights for the car. You guys can already see that the car model was already glowing, but if you click in emission, we gotta find where it's at. Here it is. All right, I'm gonna just crank these up just a bit, and then I'm gonna go back into our shader editor here, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna add in a color ramp. I want the headlights to be red, and sorry if you guys can hear the dog barking in the background. So we're gonna set this to red here, and then click our emission. It's already stupid bright, which is cool. That's what we want. And let's get rid of our shader editor. So now that we're back into our scene here, this is what we're looking at. You can already kind of see it starting to form together. It's missing a few elements, but that's why you're here. Alright, so clipping with the feet, we want the feet to just be resting on the ground a little bit, nothing crazy. Right there you can see the reflection of the glowing on the feet. Cool, that's what we want. Next up, I'm going to add in those lasers. And Blender Kit is also really great with just random materials or random models. Like, who thought we were going to need lasers for this? Alright, so once you get some lasers added in, we're going to add a bunch of cool like angles and whatnot here. I'm probably just going to set this one like right there. And the cool part about this is you can rotate them around. Let's move it more towards the camera, and I'm going to rotate it on the Z to go in between that like phase logo. Maybe something like this. And then let's add in just one more. So I'm going to select our anchor points here, select everything, and drag this one on over. Now obviously we don't want it green, so next, once we get all of these centered and positioned to where we want them to be, we're gonna go back into our shader editor like prior. So you go back into your shader editor here, and you can just literally click on the curve, which is our laser layer, you could say. And then how you do this is, for the lighting, you can still see that there's green lights. We don't want green lights, so let's just click our light and turn that color back to red. Now you got to do this to everyone just to make sure that there is no more green, because we don't want this Christmas stuff. We want it to look red. So yeah, now that we have our lasers in here, you can finick around with the positioning of them till you find that like sweet spot for what you want. I rotate these up just a bit more, and I want them going around the bass or the sandbags. And this will look really sick, especially with when we add in our depth blur. All right, so now that I have all my lasers all sized up and ready to go, kind of want more so like this, maybe even more towards the camera. Great. So now they're both passing in the center, and adds in just a bit more lighting into our focal point area. Now next up, I'm going to add in those bullets on the ground and the money. There's a few rocks on the ground on the actual cover art as well. So I'm going to just type in money, and let's see what it gives us. So it gives us a bunch of different options to pick from, but this one here looks to be good. It's all stacked up, but obviously this stack of money here is huge. So I'm going to scale it down, and let's go back into our viewport display so we can see what we're looking at better. And let's turn on cavities so we can really see the edges of the models. And yeah, same thing with the lasers. You can really finick around with the positioning of all these here, and like you can put these wherever you want. So I'm gonna deselect that, and what is moving? We just want our money to move. So yeah, let's get these added in. Let's add in some more money here, maybe something like that. And you don't want it to be perfect. Like you don't want them to be at perfect 90-degree angles or 45-degree angles, because it wouldn't be in real life. You're never gonna see a 90-degree angle that isn't manufactured in real life. Like you're not gonna have perfect set money anywhere. And let's just go back into our viewport here and see. So you can't really see it, but it's also kind of just supposed to be just sitting there. You know, if you see it, you see it. Cool. Next in, I'm going to add in our cube here. Now for this cube, we don't really need any material on it, but you are going to need an add-on. It's called Easy Fog. I'll leave a link in the description to download it. You can find it on Blender Market. It's like $8, but I use it on every project. So it's called Easy Fog. Once you get it all added in, you can just click these two buttons here, and it will create fog in one click, which is pretty incredible because I use this on every project. Now the next thing you're going to want to do here is do what we did with the money, get everything sized up, and then I'm going to go back into our shader editor because all of this fog material is all editable. And I'm going to just turn up that contrast a bit, bring in more of that light, and then we're going to bring in the brightness just a bit. We don't want it to be too bright, especially because it's sitting underneath the FAZE logo. We want that FAZE logo to pop out. But that FAZE logo interacts, the texture of the outline interacts with the fog layer, which we don't really want that. And our best bet is to just keep messing around with these red materials. Find one that you like best, that fits best for yours. I'm gonna just keep it as the stock one that we had prior and slim down our fog layer. Keep finicking around with it, keep messing with it. It doesn't matter where it goes. Just make it look cool. And I'm gonna maybe mess around with this emission strength here on this texture because I don't want there to be so much brightness in that outline. Maybe even like 0.05. That looks great there. And then for another little hidden Easter egg, I added in a juggernog in the background. He's just chilling like right here. And how I did that was I just hit Shift A. Actually, okay, no. Okay, so how I added in the juggernog here is you just go back to Sketchfab, and I just typed in juggernog, and a ton of different options to pick from. It doesn't need to be anything too crazy texture because it's just gonna go in the background, and it's more so like if you notice it, you notice it. Cool. So let me add in my juggernog here. Okay, so now that we have our juggernog in here, you can see him just lurking in the background there. And I'm gonna just rotate him up just a little bit more towards the camera. This is the juggernog here is a callback to the music video. If you guys have the chance to watch the music video, I made the entire thing from scratch, just like how I'm making this cover right here. Same softwares, the only difference is I use Premiere Pro to edit the thing instead of Photoshop, which is what we're going to be editing this in. So check out the music video if you get the chance. I spent about 6 months on it, poured my heart and soul into it. It looks great. Let me know what you think of it. So yeah, once we get this juggernog in here, probably right about there is cool. All right, next up, I'm gonna take in our FAZE logo here, and I'm gonna just center it up just a little bit more with the scene. You just hit G and then X to move it on to X. Okay, and then Next up, we're gonna add in those bullets that you see around the screen or around the floor, and we're gonna zoom in our camera just a bit more. So for that, all you do here is I'm gonna just search up bullet on our Blender kit, and there are a bunch of really cool ones. I think this was the one that I had used because it's that like sniper rifle bullet. And we're gonna go back into our original viewport here and rotate it on the X90 so it'll be resting on the floor. And let's rotate this up and around so we can see where our bullet is at. Now, you can scale it around to be where it perfectly fits in the gun, or you can scale it just like how I did, eyeball it. And yeah, so that is how we added the bullets in. Maybe even a few more just to add in more of that like atmosphere, like she's been sniping for a while. And I'm gonna add in a few little rocks around her too, just to add in more just eye candy on the ground. So this guy here looks to be pretty cool. He looks pretty big, so let's scale him down just a bit. And we don't really want these to be very prevalent, so they can really be small. So S is to scale. I don't know if I already said that earlier, but R and then Z to rotate it on the Z, and then Shift D is to duplicate an object. So yeah, these rocks, I mean, you can put the rocks wherever you want. Like I said prior, it's just more eye candy, just to give the scene more goodies, more hidden stuff, more detail. And let's go back into our render view here, because we obviously don't want just white rocks chilling, but with the lighting being as dim as it is, you can't really tell that they're white, so cool. Next up, I'm going to add in another point light just to kind of add more lighting into her, and keep finicking around with it. Just make it look as good as you want. Our light is here. I'm gonna just move it back more so like it's behind her. That's how you get that like sharp contrast right here. And I'm gonna bring another one in by hitting Shift D, and I'm gonna set this one just a little bit in front of her, and I'm gonna set that down to like a 0.1 because we don't really want it too bright, but we want it to be illuminating the scene just a bit. Okay, so now we have our scene here. I'm gonna move the camera back just a little bit here, and let me check the actual cover art file to see if I'm missing anything. It doesn't look to be that I'm missing anything. So, yeah, cool. All right, bet. Now let's go back into what we had created here. Next up, I'm gonna just fix up her leg here because it looks to be floating a little bit. We don't really want that, so just click the pose mode, and I'm gonna set a keyframe on it to do that. Great. And I'm gonna hit all of these. We don't really need all of them, and delete. So X, same delete for everything. Okay, so now we have all of our Blender work done. Pretty quick, easy. All the Blender work is done. Next up, we're gonna render this out. So I will see you guys after we render. Alrighty, so now that rendering is complete, what we're gonna do now is here is the render, and we're gonna go into compositing. Now for compositing, this is where you just add in some cool stuff. You can add in some glare. As you can see here, too much glare. But if you set it to fog glow, it just gives a little bit of ambience to the scene. It kind of looks like, you know, there's a little bit of fog in the atmosphere. And I don't want there to be too much, so I'm gonna just scale this down just a little bit here. And I'm gonna just go back into our render preview, which is right here, to give that a better full screen. And I'm gonna just hit image and then save as. So now that we've saved it, I'm gonna save it as phase tutorial. Okay, and we also want a rendering that doesn't have any of that glare on it. So let's just go back into our compositor, and we're just gonna take the raw base file here, and I'm gonna export this out. So we can just set it to phase tutorial render 2. And what you're gonna do next here is you're gonna wanna open Photoshop. We're gonna set it to 3000 by 3000 because that is our cover art size. And go back to where you had saved your files from. And I'm gonna just open both of them up, drag them both in. And then, yeah, so now we're in the home stretch here. So I'm gonna add in a new layer, and I'm gonna hit X to make our black color our background, and just control backspace. Now that is going to make the entire screen black, and I'm going to set our erase tool to be 5000 size by 0 hardness, so that kind of gives us like that vignette effect, which if you saw the last tutorial, I use that often. Now for this, we're going to go back into our main render here, which is this one, which has our glare on it, and I'm going to set it to an iris blur, so all of the exterior stuff's going to be blurred out just a little bit. And I mean, you can kind of see it here, this is really blurry, and if you want to get really technical with it, we can hit Alt and move them just singularly, and you can kind of see like blurry, not blurry, blurry, not blurry, and probably something in between that's cool. And if you just crank up the strength just a little bit, I'm going to move these in just a little bit more and set it to alright. And if you want, we can also go into gradient map here and set it to just a black, white, and red. That way we have no other colors coming through, but it sometimes can give a not so desired look. So let's just try it out. Yeah, like that there, it's not very desired. You get a lot of brown. It looks brown. But if you set it to hue, it'll make the entire thing, like, it'll keep all of the white strength and the black strength just by adjusting the colors a little bit. Now let me open up the actual file here and see. So you just add in your parental advisory. You can find it literally anywhere on the planet. Google, bada beep, bada boop, drag and drop it in, and I just put it centered up here. Next up, for the mask, this part was cool. I made it the ghost, like, creepy face, which I just found a picture of Google, or on Google, and I'll drag it in. So you can kind of see right here, I'm going to set it to normal so we can see what we're working with here. I want it to be just on the goggles. Now for this, if you set it to overlay, you can still kind of see it on the face, which is pretty neat, but we don't really want it to be all over the face. So let's just open up that layer mask here, hit the letter B so we can draw with it, and we're just going to get rid of all this extra goop from the helmet. We don't really want any going past the goggles. Okay, cool. So now that we have that added in, what we're going to do next is I'm going to just add in a little curves layer so we can bring in more of that background detail, or we could set this to like a lighten or a screen. Something kind of like that is really neat. And yeah, so let me just go back into our actual file here, and I'll show you guys the raw renderings from that. This was the raw. How I got this other more so light in here is you just duplicate your easy fog layer from earlier, and I just added in my logo on her foot, and then do what we did in Photoshop here, which is what we just went through. And if you merge everything together here, this is your final result. Now if you Control J, you can go to Filter Gallery, and then in Filter Gallery you can set it to texture. Let's get rid of this dry brush here, but if you set the texture to grain, you can boost the contrast up to like 60. That's pretty much the sweet spot, is 60, and then you set your intensity down to like 10. Now this brings in all the detail, and like I'll just show you the difference between a close-up. So this was the prior and that was the after, just off one click, which is really neat. And then our final step is to just go into Lightroom. So I will meet you guys in Lightroom. This is just where all the final color and detailing comes from. You can mess around with the reds to get it more of that like Magenta-y kind of red, which is what the actual cover art had. So I will show you guys that in just a moment. Okay, so now that we're here in Lightroom, what I did here is I have a bunch of like pre-built Lightroom packs, either custom made by me or found on the internet through like Envato Elements and such. So what I did here is I just look through and find whichever one you think looks the coolest. You can build some. Lightroom comes with a bunch of pre-built ones that you can use, and you can also mess around in all of these buttons here. They all have a different tool. It's not really a Lightroom tutorial, it's just kind of me showing you what I did to get the desired result. And I think something like this here would look really sick. We don't want it to be like too bright, but we also want there to be just enough color to see what's going on. And I think maybe like a 120 is cool, and a little before and after just brings out more of that red color. And yeah, there you go. You have officially created the FAZE 2.0 cover art. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you have the chance to check out the music video, please do. There is so much time and effort that went into that, and I just want to give a huge thanks to Truth for letting me hop on this project. Had an absolute blast working on this, and it's just a really cool opportunity. I've been listening to Logic for a long time, and I'm sure most of you guys have as well. I'm just very blessed to be here. If you made it this far in the video, I want you to comment turtle, because if you guys can hear in the little background audio, my turtle tank's on. So comment the turtle emoji, whatever. But yeah, stay tuned for the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching. Peace.